So this week we had travelled to the Global Anti-Scam Summit in Washington, and following Google's announcement 2 weeks ago that they will be joining us as the partners of our new Global Signal Exchange, a joint venture with a Dutch company called the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. So we're going to have access to a huge amount of data, and people have been asking us, what are we going to do with the data? And so in Washington, we're going to be discussing our 5-step plan to tackle scams and abuse. So Emily, our 5-step plan to tackle scams and abuse, let's step through it, measure it. That's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think that would be the easy bit, but in fact it's really difficult because there's an awful lot of data out there, but it's very difficult to know how to make sense of it. It's difficult to know what's up to date, and actually nobody, even the very big, powerful companies who control an awful lot of our online life, not even they can see everything. So measuring it requires a lot of stuff to be in place before you can get a good measure.
Before we talk about the power of data, Kieran, people have been asking me, why share data with each other? Have you got any thoughts on the value of sharing data?
Yes, sharing data is how you really get things done. I mean, on almost every level, you could just sort of throw out any industry right now, and we could talk about how using that data is going to make it work better. And it's become a little bit like AI. You just say it, but the truth is, if you can get the more data you can get, the more sense you can make out of it. It used to be too much data caused paralysis. Now with AI and now with machine learning, more and more and more data, you can actually intelligently go through it and make sense of it and find patterns that would take us as humans previously an incredible period of time. It wasn't worth it. Now you can. So yes, the more data and the more intelligent sharing of that data for pretty much every sector is going to be useful and provide you with real insights.
Yes, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. But in the NHS just recently, and I'm going to inject our third topic here because I think it actually is pertinent here, a new report by Professor Kathy Sudlow calls for improved access to NHS patient data for research. Now, this is again about measuring it, and you can measure it in a sort of statistics environment, or you can measure things in real time. In the COVID outbreak, we were all glued to the data. Is it going up and is it going down? But the thing that gets me is, I worked in the NHS very briefly with a lot of sedatives in 25 years ago. There was a call for the United patient data systems, and they were £1 billion disaster, investing in these colossal systems. Emily, what's this about?
Well, sharing data, like Kieran says, everyone talks about it, but hardly anybody does it, and there's lots of reasons why not. And I thought Kieran made a great point earlier about the UK feeling really stuck, and the NHS is sort of such an emblem of stuckness. What happened during the pandemic was, because of the kind of complete emergency, a breakdown of everything, a lot of things became possible that hadn't been possible before. So there was suddenly a huge amount of data sharing to try to actually save people's lives. And in fact, your own mother benefited from this, because for very acute patients, by collecting, sharing and correlating data, it was realised that some treatments really didn't work. Ventilating patients did not work.
Wow. Yes.
It tended to kill them. And some very cheap interventions could be incredibly effective, like steroids. That was found by data sharing, by looking at the mass. And it's not necessarily about getting one perfect line of data. It's about getting all of the data, warts and all, and correlating it with different things. And that's where you get the insights.
Yes, your father, infamous Oxford professor, inventor of the Oxford knee, your late father, he said to me once, I was saying, what was it about the Oxford knee? And he said, well, we invented that 2 decades ago. The difference was the data. We had somebody, Emily, tell the story of somebody who collected the data.
My father was a research research scientist. So he was a researcher primarily. He worked with an orthopedic surgeon. He developed the sort of mathematical modelling that he understood the forces that applied in the knee, designed the bit, designed the component. But then, because of his influence, they followed up their patients for 20 years. So when they went to go through the US Food and Drug Administration, which is very, it's a sort of, again, I would say a use of standards to block non-US products, took 20 years for them to get through, but they had 20 years of data showing more than 90% survival at 20 years and more than 90% were pain-free. If you don't follow up, if you don't collect that data, you don't know the results. You're just going on your gut feel, and that just doesn't cut it anymore.
Yeah. Before we move on to our step 2, and we're not going to plod through this slowly, I promise you, we're at step 1.
Step 1 of 300.
Of our 5-step plan to tackle scams and abuse. We've just done Measure It. Before I move on to step 2, it's time for our Tech Room 101. Room 101. Myself. What is...
Oh, shall I ask you?
Yes, please do.
Or maybe Kieran should ask you.
Yeah, Kieran, you ask me.
Ask Lucian.
Lucian, what is your Room 101?
I couldn't make him do that every
That's
time
very
now.
Good. That was quite scary.
Okay, it's Boots the Chemist shop checkout systems. Okay, you get to the end of the queue. There's no humans there, and you've got to check out. And the systems are absolutely crap. Okay, you arrive there with your stuff from the chemist and you start checking out and it goes a red light and it's there. And there's nobody there because it's a non-human mediated tech system. And there's then a queue building up behind me and they're all cross with me as a customer because I'm holding up them because they can't get to the till because the till is bloody blocked. And then a shop assistant passes. What's the matter? I don't know. I'm just a customer. Well, what's it saying? It says I've got paracetamol. Yeah, but paracetamol needs to be checked.
What a shock result in a pharmacy.
Yeah.
What a shock that somebody would be buying some drugs.
Yeah. Now, I heard something about the Boots director or something resigning or something this week. I hope so. Anyway, those shop till systems, they're okay if you're savvy, if you know it, but I always get stuck because it's always alcohol or paracetamol and I get stuck and they just don't know it. They've obviously never encountered anyone.
Are the two connected in any way?
Alcohol one day, then paracetamol the next day.
That's right.
Sometimes ibuprofen, depending on.
That's right.
Sometimes some Alka-Seltzer works a treat.
Yeah, kick somebody when they're just being quite, open and candid about their
sharing.
stuff.
Thank you for sharing, Lucian.
Just you wait, you guys.
Yeah,
okay.
but I hate those automated tills as well because I actually like talking to people in shops.
But that's expensive. What about the stockholders,
I
Bob?
feel like it's the worst sort of inhuman approach to tech. It's sort of like, oh my God, we're losing market share to online. Let's make the shopping environment in real life like online. No, make it different to online. Make it nice. Make it all the things that we lose in the online experience, like seeing things and talking to people.
Okay, step 2 of our 5.